Hello and welcome to part 2 of the general information videos for Kilrush Marina. My name is Peter Griffiths and operate from the marina with my boat Crofton Lock. This video has been created to give you guidance on how to safely manage your passage through the marina tidal lock system. Part 1 of this video series provides general guidance on things you may encounter if you visit the harbour or sail in the vicinity of Kilrush on the Shannon River. This video is put together with the help of the Kilrush Marina community. It is based on information current in July 2019. Captains for vessels operating into and out of the port should update this information by contacting the marina team prior to visits. Home-based boats should regularly update themselves on safe operations into and out of the marina by consulting notice boards and, if necessary, consulting marina management in case of difficulty. Safety is a key consideration for lock operations. It involves fast-moving water flows, some of which can be unseen, so by its very nature it can be risky. Water depths in the lock can be as high as 9 metres. Flows of water through the lock can be very turbulent and can involve eddies and suction effects, so care needs to be taken at all stages of the operation. In particular, fast-moving water conditions exist in the lock and adjacent to its gates. Life jackets should be worn by all captains and crews who are operating on deck or outside of their boats, standing on the lock pontoon or climbing wall ladders. When in the lock, ropes, arms, legs or fishing lines should not be allowed to dangle into the water, as there is potential for them to be damaged by propellers or bow thruster units that may operate at high power to manoeuvre boats. A particular concern for all is that in the event of falling into water during lock operations, you should look to ensure that you can hold onto something immediately upon servicing. This is to ensure that you do not drift near the gates where high volumes of water flow and large suction effects can be experienced. Controllers of gates should, where possible, close all gates immediately upon seeing a person going into the water, taking care not to crush the person in the gates if they are pulled into the gap. However, please note, judgment is necessary on this. Sometimes it may be necessary to open gates to expel the person into calmer water for recovery if trapped in a suction effect. If you are operating the gates and have doubt on the best course of action, shout or call for help. Marina management should be informed of all instances where a person has inadvertently fallen in the water. The Kilrush Marina lock can be operated in 3 ways. The first is full manual operation. This is managed by the marina staff trained on lock management. They will operate the lock from a panel in the control building adjacent to the lock. They have full management of the gates and the water flows, and no action other than tying up boats securely is necessary for captains. Lock controllers may instruct boat captains on what is required, and their instructions should be followed. The second operation is semi-automatic, where the lock is controlled by lock-trained staff using the automatic sequencing of the lock system accessed by their phone. During this operation, the lock staff may be available to provide further assistance to crews or to provide guidance. They may not be present at the lock control building, but supervising remotely using video surveillance. Visitors to Kilrush Marina may find this is frequently used by marina management to manage their transit. The lock area and its operation are continually videoed for your safety, and cameras can be accessed live remotely by marina management. If you are in a lock and contact them, they will be able to see you on video and may issue instructions to you by phone. Their instructions should be followed. The final mode is fully automatic. This allows for home-based boats to operate through the lock in an unmanned state, and it can also be used by the marina management to allow through guest visitors. It is this mode that will be addressed in the remaining part of the video. Kilrush Marina operates 24/7, and the marina team can be contacted by mobile phone and VHF on channel 80 by calling lock gates. If you are visiting the marina for the first time, you should call ahead to notify the marina of your intended arrival so that suitable arrangements can be made to help you transition the lock. The lock can accommodate boats up to 23 metres long and 8 metres wide without difficulty. Water depth into the marina is maintained at an average of 2.5 metres in the marked areas but can be shallow outside of this. If requested, it may be possible to accommodate deeper drafts for a period, but this needs to be discussed prior to your visit with the marina staff. There is a ledge known as a sill at the marina end of the lock, and this has a fall of nearly 3 metres to the lock floor. When mooring boats for lock transits, underwater sections of the boat should not hang over the sill, especially when going out in low water conditions. For guidance on the sill position, the sill is slightly further towards the marina end than the end of the pontoon and is marked by a signboard. The water level is adjusted through the gates. There are no separate sluices, so water movements can increase quickly on opening, causing turbulent conditions in the lock when filling. Boats need to be securely fastened as water currents can move boats in both directions in flows which rapidly change direction on back eddies. It should be noted that there is always a passage of water through the gates due to imperfect sealing, so captains should be aware of movements through the lock that can drive boats towards the gates. The lock is operable in all weather conditions, but care should be taken in westerly high wind conditions, and these can produce swells at the lock entrance which will buffet boats until the gates are closed. Also, when leaving, the crosswind can drive boats against the lee wall quickly, so it is necessary sometimes to use high power for larger vessels to ensure that there is sufficient steerage capability. The lock is also used to maintain water levels in the marina and can be used to increase and decrease water levels depending on requirements. When this happens, the lock is operated by a lock keeper who opens both sets of gates, allowing water to enter or leave the marina basin. This is referred to as free flow. Operators of boats need to be particularly cautious around the lock in these conditions, as flows can become very rapid and can exceed engine capabilities. Differences in water heights can vary, but can be as high as 1.5 metres across the entire lock length, with water flows in excess of 2,000 tonnes a minute. During free flow operations, the lock is manned and lock keepers will call approaching boats on VHF channel 80 to remain well clear of both the entrance and exit gates. When this is occurring, it is strongly recommended that you remain at least 100 metres away. Stopping free flow operations quickly is not possible, and serious damage to boats is highly likely if it gets caught in strong flows. However, when there is little difference between heights, a small flow is experienced, and this can be navigated quite safely by most boats. Lock keepers may invite boat owners to transition the lock, but captains should assess the conditions for themselves to decide if they wish to transition, as only they will understand the conditions for them to be able to maintain control of their boat. Occasionally, larger vessels than the lock capacity are allowed into the marina, and they do so in free flow conditions, as they are able to transition through the lock system whilst both lock gates are open. Arrangements for this are very specialist, and marina management should be contacted to make arrangements and provide assistance. It is not possible to transition in free flow in automatic mode. Lock gates are powered hydraulically and are very powerful. Gates are managed from the controller panels both on the pontoon on the north side of the lock and in the controller building. The gates are fitted with tripwires, so if something should trip the lock gate, it will stop moving. When this happens, a lock keeper is required to come and reset the system. Lock gates will move slowly and will stop every so often to ensure that nothing is caught between the gates. When gates are opening and closing, it is strongly advised that boats do not transition through the gates. Strong flows of water may still be occurring and may drive boats against the gates, tripping their action. A reset can take as long as 15 minutes. Lock operators in automatic should always check to ensure that all boats that wish to use the lock are in prior to closing the gate. Cycling the lock can take as long as 30 minutes, so do bear this in mind. If you miss the gates, it will be 30 to 40 minutes before you can enter the lock again, and on busy days when boats are moving in both directions, this could be over an hour. Large private and commercial vessels, home-based boats and customs cutters do transit the lock regularly, and water depths sometimes do not allow them to remain waiting long, especially when tides are dropping. Whilst it is not marina practice to prioritise these boats, it is always good practice to help them. They will appreciate it, and are often a good source of assistance should you need it when transiting in and out of the marina. They're a good local source of information, as well as knowledgeable on all aspects of lock operations and tying up during lock transit. The lock is a method of changing water levels. Kilrush has its lock to control tidal water flows in the marina basin, and water levels constantly change within an operating range. Kilrush Marina lock can be operated in both ways, depending on which level is higher, meaning that sometimes you go up into the marina and sometimes you go down. Lock operators do not need to worry about this, as the lock system will automatically adjust to meet whatever condition it is managing. As is shown in this animation, water levels in the lock equalise by opening the gates and allowing boats to enter. Once in, the gates will be closed, and the opposite end gates will cycle open to lower the level. Water is not pumped in the lock system, it is driven solely by gravity. Once down, the lower end gates are fully opened and boats are allowed out. Methods of entering the lock varies depending on boat sizes. For small boats, they should remain clear of the gates by at least 1 metre all the time. For larger boats, however, captains should adopt a centreline approach, completing entry of at least 1/3 of the boat length before adjusting to manoeuvre close to the wall or pontoon. The reason for this is that larger boats displace more water, and it is normal for this water moving out of the lock to flow out of the same gates as the boat has entered. The larger the boat, the greater the amount of displaced water. If that flow is significant, then it can drive the boat's bow faster towards the side to which it is turning, and striking a gate or a wall can occur. It is the boat captain's responsibility to ensure that they make the right approach to the lock. I regularly transit with a 32-ton boat, and this effect is very pronounced at the marina end of the lock. It will also drive the smaller boats already in the lock towards the open gates, as when the larger boat enters, water is pushed out, and if they're not tied up, they too will be pushed out of the gate. Entry speeds therefore should be kept as low as possible to avoid a strong back eddy effect, but consistent with good steerage. To moor your boat for lock cycling, you can tie up on both sides, alongside the pontoon or by the wall. If you tie to the wall, there are several steel drop lines built into the wall that allow you to slip a line around them so that the mooring lines will follow you up and down the wall as water is allowed in or out. This is necessary when falls are large. For small changes in height, bollards are placed at the top of the lock and they can be used. Remember to adjust the rope lengths though as water falls and rises. As there are no fenders on the wall side, fenders are required on your boat to protect it from wall damage. When water is coming in or out, they will need to be checked regularly to ensure they do not ride up over the boat rail or get pulled off as water levels rise. If tied up alongside the pontoon, then no action is necessary as the pontoon rises and falls with the water level. Automatic operations are carried out by authorised boats by mobile phone. To get the lock ready, a text message is sent to the lock number stating exit marina to leave the marina and enter marina if you are coming in. The lock will recognise your mobile phone and start to set the lock for you. You will see yellow flashing lights flash to indicate that the gates are moving to set the lock for your arrival. Even when gates are already set, it is still strongly recommended that you text the lock, as there is nothing worse than finding that the lock system starts to operate for movement in the opposite direction before you are ready. The worst that can happen is that water movements may drive your boat against the wall or gates as you transition into the lock, and this is to be avoided. It could, however, be that your only penalty is to have to wait for an hour whilst the lock transitions other boats. By texting the lock first, you'll be put in a queue so that the control of the lock behaviour is managed by you. The lock will run for 10 minutes for you to enter, so make sure that you text at a time when you know that you can complete the entry, mooring and start the lock control within that period. If not activated by a pontoon control box, the lock will shut down again, and then there is a period of 5 minutes prior to restart to allow boats to enter or exit. A new request will trigger the lock into action, and this may be in the opposite of what you want. When in automatic, you can enter the lock when the traffic light system at the entrance to the lock is green. These lights may be ignored if the lock is under control of a lock keeper and control is in manual. If in doubt, call the lock on channel 18. Once in the lock, a crew member should operate the lock controls. They should check the approaches to the lock to ensure no one else is approaching, and then close the gates by holding down the close button on the control panel on the pontoon. This is shown by a green light surrounding the button. Once the gates are closed, please hold down the button until the final sealing action is complete, signified by a noticeable boom from the gates. Then the gates lights on the control panel will change, and a green light will now surround the open button at the opposite end gates. You press this once and let go. The automatic water level and opening sequence will then start. Once the lock gates are fully open, you can exit the lock safely. This concludes part 2 of the series on Kilrush Marina, and we hope to see you there, either as a visitor or one of the increasing group of local boat owners. We hope you find this useful, and if you have any suggestions on things that you would like to see in this series on either Kilrush Marina or the Shannon River, please contact the Marina team. The Kilrush Marina community will do their best to try and make them for you. Thanks very much for watching, and happy sailing from Kilrush.